Hello guys and welcome to yet another race video. Going to be continuing with the topics covered in the previous one, or like banking off of them I guess. Race has started here by the way on Genua Trail. Just going to go through this real quick. Genua Trail. Should recognize this track. Should recognize it from previous seasons. It's going to one of the first, I think it was the second rallycross ever raced. First one to be like completely terrain. Also going to be a switch up like with the other rallycrosses this season. 2 jokers allowed here during this race. It's going to be a 20 lap race with 2 jokers, which should be quite a bit. I mean, this track is fairly long, and as you can see, there are some changes. Like right here, this section is definitely a bit different. So definitely some changes. It's definitely, if you look at it, it's basically the same layout, just with some modifications to the sections to make them a bit more interesting and just switch things up. For the fact that we're racing it here again, already people using the joker very early, like that chicane there. Definitely some things added in to just kind of throw you for a loop if you haven't raced this track in a minute. That was kind of the idea here. But as you can see, like most of the layout itself not really touched. Just some adjustments to it, just some little things here and there, make it a little bit more interesting. But yeah, so piggybacking off of what I was talking about in the last video, I said I wanted to talk about Halo 5 in this one. I still do. So Halo 5 was kind of interesting because it fixed the issue with MCC where in MCC like stuff just didn't work. Matchmaking wise, custom game wise, MCC just did not work. The nice thing about Halo 5 is that Halo 5 throughout its life cycle has been relatively functional. You know, custom games pretty much always worked in Halo 5. Towards the end, after one of the last patches, I forget what patch it was now, but unfortunately they never freaking fixed it. But one of the later patches, I think it was like literally the last patch they did, of course, like kind of broke custom games, where before we never had to do resets or anything. Literally, like maybe once out of every 20 races we'd have to do like a reset in the lobby or something. After that final update, it was literally every single time that we'd restart. Like for example, if we were to do heat races and then end the game to do the main race, we'd always have to like reset the lobby, invite a ton of people back, people's game would freeze. Such a pain in the ass, which sucks because Halo 5 for the majority of its life cycle, like I said, pretty functional. And then they come out with this last patch where they're like, hey, let's break custom games for you guys. I'm like, ah, sick, sweet. Exactly what the problem with MCC was. Now I'm bringing it to Halo 5. Awesome. I guess the nice thing with Halo 5 though is that you never like had to invite people in certain orders or anything like that. Like that didn't really happen. You know, once people reset their game, it was good. Whereas in MCC, sometimes you'd have to do several resets to get things to work. So I guess you could give Halo 5 that. Like it was consistently broken. It's not like MCC where like, you know, sometimes it'd work, sometimes it wouldn't. And Halo 5 was very consistent with how broken it was. After that patch, like the way we'd have to fix the lobbies, very consistent. Not like MCC where you'd have to do some experimentation. But yeah, so like the issue with Halo 5, not to do in the functionality, which is nice because the functionality was the big problem with MCC that kind of just killed it, because without the functionality, what do you do? The issue with Halo 5 is not the Forge either. Like the Forge in Halo 5, I think, again, I really like MCC's Forge, but it's hard to not give like best Forge to Halo 5. Halo 5, they just stepped it up, made it so intricate and complex, and if you really take the time to learn Halo 5's Forge, it's got to be like just the best for a forger. Added so much more control over the objects and over the world, and just added a ton of objects in general. A lot of spaces, a lot of canvases, I should say, to make tracks, and just in general, like Forge-wise, functionality-wise, Forge-wise, great. So nailed 2 of like the 3 main things you need, and then the third one, they fudged it with the mongoose physics, and the mongoose physics are historically, like anybody that's raced a decent amount of time in Halo 5 knows that the mongoose physics are the weak part of the game, which is sad because they nailed the other 2 things. Like the game works, you can get in games and play them, unlike MCC. The Forge works, like we've had some of the most detailed, craziest tracks, most fun to race, most ambitious. You could just go down the adjectives. Like the tracks in Halo 5 are amazing. and the tracks are actually limited by the goose physics. Like, it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate because people come up with these great ideas and are able to do things that we've never been able to do before, that we've only been able to like dream of and reach for, or MCC Forge. Finally get to do those things in Halo 5 Forge, get to do most of those grand ideas that you may have had because of how great this Forge is. And you can't really race any of them because the goose physics suck. I mean, you can race them, it's just not as fun as it would be if it were the goose physics of like MCC goose physics. Man, if there was a freaking Halo 5 Forge with MCC goose physics, oh my god, it would be the best game of all time. And the functionality of Halo 5 too, as well, like pre-last patch. But yeah, so that's the unfortunate part of Halo 5. So Halo 5 had 2 of the 3 like things that it absolutely needed for the race community to continue to flourish and to maybe make a comeback. And unfortunately, it screwed up the goose physics one, which, I mean, you could argue any of them are the most important. But yeah, the goose, they're all pretty, like, those 3 things are all pretty equally important. Like, you really need a good forge, good goose physics, and functionality. You literally can't have it without all those 3. You know what I mean? Like, you can, but it's not going to be a full experience, I suppose. Except for functionality. I suppose functionality is technically the most important because you literally couldn't race, but same goes with forge. I guess in these terms, maybe goose physics are the least important, but what I'm getting at is if you have the other 2 and the goose physics suck, then nobody's going to care. That's what I'm getting at. Like, if you have those other 2 things and the goose physics aren't great, then people aren't going to care. And Halo 5 really showed that. Just a lot of disinterest from new people, from veterans. Just a lot of disinterest in general. And I think a big factor of that are the goose physics. Just not as interesting, not as addicting as previous games. Like Halo 5, I could only... certain tracks I could practice for a long time on Halo 5 because, like I said, Halo 5 Forge-wise was great, and some tracks were just able to overcome how sucky the goose physics were because some tracks in this game were just great. Real low with the Joker there. The issue, though, is that in general, that doesn't work. Like, in general, it doesn't matter how good the track is. The goose physics just weren't interesting enough for me personally. I know this probably applies to some other people as well. I'm not sure how many, but for me personally, like in Halo 4 Reach, well, I was going to include MCC, but not really. But so yeah, Halo 4 and Reach, I could just practice for hours on end. And to be fair, there are some other factors here. Like, it may not be completely because of the goose physics of the game. Like, part of it might be just the time, right? Like, for me personally, and I know a lot of people in the Halo racing community, like Halo 4 and Reach was a younger, like they were definitely, obviously they were younger at that point, but I'm saying like significantly younger, if that makes sense. Like, I think there's a big difference from being younger, like say you were 23 and now you're 27, as opposed to you were 14 and now you're 18. You know what I mean? Like, that's a big difference at the point in your life. That's a huge difference. And I would argue that, not really argue, but I would bet that, you know, like getting conked by the lap driver, no. I would argue that like the latest stage a like main veteran racer would be in during, you know, Reach or Halo 4 times is like college, right? Which even then is still pretty early stage in your age and in your life. Still in school, essentially. So yeah, like a lot of people back then didn't even have jobs. Like, a lot of people were just in school. A lot of racers was what I'm getting at. Like, a lot of people that were in the community still in high school is what I'm getting at. And at the latest, you know, maybe in college, maybe just like starting a job after high school, but like just a very early stage in your life where you just don't have as much responsibility to account for, I suppose. So like that's what I'm getting at. Like, that's definitely a factor, right? Of the being able to practice. Like, it might not just entirely be because of the game. Part of it may be because of outside factors, because, you know, obviously if you don't have as many responsibilities and the only thing you have to do is like go to school and finish your homework or whatever, you have a lot more time for games and you could just do whatever you want. You know, you could practice for hours on end and get away with it. Whereas once you get to Halo Master Chief Collection and Halo 5, we got to a point where a lot of the younger people in the community, like there just wasn't as many younger people in the community, I suppose. Whereas before it seemed like there's a pretty significant portion, and even like an old person in the community would be like 18. You know what I mean? or like, late teens, maybe early 20s. Whereas now, it's getting to the point where most people are, out of high school, getting out of high school, getting into college, where that's like the majority. Whereas before, it was kind of like, maybe 50-50, where now that's like more so the majority. And they just don't have as much time on their hands, and just don't have as much time to spend on Halo racing, and that just kind of affects everything. You don't have enough time to practice, you don't have as much time to create tracks. If you're helping with running, you don't have enough time to manage. And yeah, time is just a big factor, like how much time you have for it, because this is a thing that is a passion project. Nobody involved with this was getting paid for it. Like, it was all just for fun and all out of passion for the community and the game type and how fun it was. Nobody got paid to make any tracks or to run the leagues or to win races, really. I mean, maybe like some prizes there for tournaments or something. Win a frickin'... The biggest prize I got for Halo racing was winning a Halo 4 Arctic PR skin, which I'm still proud of, by the way. And that's about it. So yeah, it was pretty much just all for fun. And when you get to the point where you gotta really worry about your self-responsibility, you need to make the right decision there. And most people are gonna make the right decision and decide that, yeah, going to college, taking this job, working harder in high school, whatever it is going to be more important than putting that extra time in to finish the track, putting that extra time in to practice for the race. What was the other one? Like, being able to manage, like, managing takes a long time. Maybe you just don't have time to do it. And can't blame them for that, that's like the right decision there. You gotta obviously be able to live before you could do stuff like Halo racing, you know what I mean? Like, if you don't have enough money to pay your bills, and you can't race. So and I know, like, there are plenty of people that have had that issue, right? Like, I remember Opix at a time for quite a while could not race because of work, because of the times, and Armada for a while, same thing, could not race because of work, could not race because he wasn't working. Like, he was kind of boned either way. Yeah, you got to make the right decision there. And with the community, like, in general, growing up, because a lot of we do have new racers, but a lot of the people have been in the community for a while, right? Like, it's still a lot of the same faces that I saw in Reach and Halo 4 racing. Like, definitely a significant, I would say, decline in new drivers with Halo 4. Sorry, not with Halo 4. With Halo MCC and Halo 5. Halo 4, I think, was a pretty good influx of, like, Halo 4 people are like veterans now, you know what I mean? But at the time, they were new drivers. Like, quite a few people that still race now from Halo 4 pretty much got their start. Whereas I can hardly think of anybody that is like a veteran now that got their start in MCC or Halo 5. Off the top of my head, Fireball. That's about it. Like, I'd have to look at the rest of the people. Like, off the top of my head, he's literally the only person that comes into my head when I'm like, hey, who's a significant, like, veteran driver that really got their racing start in MCC or Halo 5? And in my head, I was like, oh, Fireball, and that's about it. Like, that's about it. There have been some other people that have come and gone, done a few races here or there, but for the most part, it's pretty much the same community. And like I said, the aging issue ends up being a significant issue when the community is very similar. And by similar, I mean, like, it's, like I said, it's the same community. So yeah. Anyways, like, what I was getting at, that's also a big factor, just like the aging portion of the community. Definitely not helping anything, right? Like, that's definitely another reason why with the decline of Halo 5. But at the same time, still not done with the Halo 5 discussion. Still try to get HRL going in Halo 5, and to be fair to myself, I give myself some credit for this. I think HRL definitely was most successful in Halo 5. Like, Reach, Halo 4 was mostly a fun, like, really small community league. But Halo 5 is when, especially the reboot, I guess, like, after Season 3, starting with Season 3, like, the reboot, that's when it really got started. And that's when Season 3 through 9 were like a dream to me, where, not perfect, obviously, never going to be perfect, but Like, that's what I envisioned HRL being. So season 3 and 9 were like a blast, because it was like, okay, now we're unfortunately towards the end of, or towards the later half of Halo 5's life cycle, but hey, this is finally like what it should have been the whole time. Finally there. The unfortunate part, though, the reason why Halo Racing still didn't really continue to flourish, is kind of ended up being like the only league, you know, like there weren't really any other alternatives. Yeah, HRL at that point, once we got to season 3, in the beginning when I was running like season 1 and 2, yeah, there were some other leagues, they were still trying out the game, but once I wanted to bring it back with season 3, all those other leagues kind of are out and are kind of just on hold until Infinite, and that's unfortunate. You can't have a whole community survive off of one league. Like, you need multiple communities, like we've had in the past. And, you know, for the different types of racing, right? Like, before you had HRL, which would offer a lot of different types of racing. HT, same thing, offer a lot of different types of racing. You'd have the very specific leagues, like some people really liked road course racing, so they do their own like road course leagues, their own supercross leagues, a lot of very specific oval leagues, very niche communities there, and just a lot of different communities for the different types of racing that people enjoyed, so that everybody had somewhere to belong. And with Halo 5, it was kind of tough, because I felt like with HRL we kind of needed to try to hit all of those, because of the fact that it's like the only thing. So it's hard to make a community work for everyone. You know, it's always easier to like focus on a niche, right? And that's why I think we were really getting onto something with the Oval series in season 8. Like doing specific seasons to focus on like a specific type of racing, I guess. So it's unfortunate that I had to end it now and not really get more in depth into that, right? But you know, oh well. At the same time, though, I am glad that we stuck with the multiple track, multiple race series type format, because then everybody really did get to get a taste of everything. Like, HRL really was for the people that just enjoyed all types of racing and didn't really want to commit to a specific type of racing. Like, obviously everybody has a preference, right? Like, everybody has their favorite type of racing, but HRL was really for the people that were like, all right, we enjoy all of it and we want all of it. And you know, I think we achieved that pretty well throughout the return of Halo 5. But again, like I said, the unfortunate part of Halo 5 is that we were pretty much the only ones at that point. And it can't be that way. You need multiple communities. You just need it. That's the only way for it to flourish. So it's unfortunate. And you know, how will HRL continue through Halo 5? How long will it keep going now that I'm gone? How long will HT ever come back? Will ORL ever come back? Like, will there be new communities? Will HRL continue in Infinite? I can't answer any of these questions, like where Halo Racing is going to be by the time Infinite comes out, especially with the fact that you know, Halo 5 is essentially dead, and Halo Infinite, who the hell knows when it's coming out at this point? It could be 2019, it could be 2020, it could be 2021. Really, nobody has any idea when Halo Infinite's coming out at this point. A lot of conjecture, a lot of speculation. No one really knows. So yeah, now that I've gone through like the MCC reach, like gone through the past and stuff, I wanted to talk a little bit about the future, but it's hard because the future is very uncertain. And I'm not trying to say anything like set up everybody that's trying to make HRL still work now that I'm gone, like for failure, but I'm just speaking from a personal standpoint of like the direction that I've seen it going, especially with the direction I've seen Halo 5 going recently, with it again essentially being dead. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough for everybody to try to keep HRL going for the rest of Halo 5 into Infinite. Like, that's going to be a tall task, one that I did not want to take because I did not feel that it was worth it. So if you could pull that off, if the community can pull it off, sick. I just don't think it's a very safe bet, so we'll see what happens. Obviously, I would hope that it happens, but I don't know. I just don't think it's the likely thing. At the same time, though, even if Halo 5 does die off, what about Infinite? Will Infinite bring back that fire for Halo? And that's a big question. Ooh, the clutch win right there. I forgot about that. That was a close race. Last lap Joker for the battle for the lead. Like, that was actually really dope. It's unfortunate that story time was there at the end, because that was actually a really sick ending. But yeah, I gotta end the video here soon. So I'll start off the next video with like more so talking about the future and thoughts on that. But hope you guys enjoyed this race here at Genoa. See you next time.